Where to start with this one? Nigel Farage walks into a TV studio, and it's as though one had allowed a cat into a room full of rocking chairs. You know something is likely to go haywire. What then followed was a kind of verbal fencing match in which Farage wielded his words like a sabre and the host. Well, she looked like she brought a butter knife. The opening line has the host interrogating Farage over Donald Trump, that extremely unoriginal topic. Now, Farage could have simply let it pass, but he didn't. Instead, he leaned into it like a man who's passed 100 Brexit debates. Every time Donald Trump makes a comment that is derided, it turns out to be true, Farage would say, as if caring about Trump's wild statements were evidence of some Nostradamus-like talent.
How much is this you wanting desperately to be the UK ambassador in Washington?
Well, it's not going to happen, is it?
But how much is this about?
No. I am not going to be.
The host tries to get back control by saying, "It seems as though you want to become the ambassador of the UK in Washington." Instead of the typical avoidance by a seasoned politician, Farage simply denies the claim in a theatrical manner that would make one believe he was auditioning for a West End play. Let's face it, Nigel, we understand your position. You will not take the job unless someone comes to you and asks in the end. Farage pretty much cheers this idea down. When confronted with what most people would consider a slam-dunk question, he doesn't suck it in, but rather engages it with a smirk and plays a reluctant but talented candidate who just might say yes to the right timing. Dramatic flair changes the tone and leaves the host scrambling for her follow-up. This is the kind of performance one would expect from someone who knows how to make a challenge into an opportunity.
I never disclose private conversations I have with Donald Trump. That's why he likes me and trusts me.
Then, followed by that, he throws in a zinger. Oh dear, just when you thought spice in a mix couldn't get any better. All of a sudden, the loud-mouthed politician turns all discreet. Now, if this were a sitcom, that's the cue for the laugh track to kick in.
Very senior members of his incoming cabinet team, and
So Marco Rubio, people like that.
They are horrified because they know that China has extraordinary naval ambitions. We see that in the South China Sea as they encroach on new territories, they try and reclaim atolls. And the trouble with this deal, well, number one, it's totally unnecessary, but and there is no basis in international law that we have to do this that stands up. Sounds great, but we had a 50-year deal with China over Hong Kong. That unravels.
The talk soon goes global geopolitical. Farage, clearly getting into the mood, starts lecturing about China's aspirations for naval capabilities. And lecture is the exact word for it. He goes all out. At one point, he even starts recounting his atolls being reclaimed, his naval encroachments sounding as if he is narrating an episode of Blue Planet. Of course, the host is trying to decide between countering with facts or letting him run out of steam. Spoiler, she opts for factual rebuttals. Spoiler number 2, it doesn't work. Farage disposes of them in record time, even faster than a London taxi driver does with an Uber.
We have to not upset Donald Trump.
We have to be an ally to Donald Trump. And
does that mean...
Allies don't betray the military of the United States, without which...
One of the highlights? His passionate defence of the ties between the United Kingdom and the United States. He sets it like this: allies don't betray allies. The kind of passion usually expected of someone who's just found out that his best friend just went to the pub without him.
Why is it betraying? Joe Biden's administration agreed to this, the UK government agreed to this, the Mauritian government agreed to this.
Joe Biden's administration, on the way out, raised no objections. I didn't hear any warm words of encouragement. And it was perfectly obvious that the Trump administration would view this.
The host counters that with, sure, but Biden's administration agreed to some of those policies, to which Farage said, yeah, but Trump's administration wouldn't have liked it. You have to be incredibly talented to do such mental gymnastics, because in Farage's view, to be allied with America is to be allied with Trump. Biden? Just meh. He's just there, like the salad at a steak place.
Do you see your role as representing the interests of the incoming Trump administration now?
I'd like to avoid World War III. That's quite a big consideration for me. No, my role is to represent people who voted for me here.
The host would rather not see Farage for long. For now, she is visibly frustrated. You can almost hear the producers in her earpiece whispering, "Got him."
Yes, I've spent half my life in America. I work for American companies. I've lived many, many months, if not years of my life in America. All that is true. And the commitment of my heart is, of course, to our country. And I know without a good military relationship with America, we are in very big trouble.
But Farage calmly explains his role is to further British interests. He even goes a bit poetic, saying his commitment of the heart is the UK. At this stage, you are half expecting him to stand up and start singing "God Save the King."
I just hope they think outside the box and choose somebody that can actually get into that Oval Office and have a straight conversation with Trump and those around him. I have actually, been in touch with the Labour government, and I've said, totally sincerely, if I can be a bridge in any way at all to do things that act in my national interest, even though I don't support anything the Labour government stand for.
Among all the things that can be said about this interview, Farage always keeps his cool. Every time the host tries to box him either as a Trump devotee or as an opportunist, he evolves. When she accuses him of prioritising US politics before the interests of the UK, he counters that the American election is relevant to the world, not just to him. He even throws in a line about avoiding World War III, which is difficult to argue against. With a keen eye for making some of the most critical allegations impressive opportunities to grandstand, Farage is a classic. The steering of the conversations towards global stake-involving things such as a nuclear conflict or the special relationship with America not only avoids answering directly, but elevates self-importance even more. It's a classic distracts from the big picture and makes the small details seem petty. The frustration of the host is almost palpable. At one point, she almost appeared to be about to throw her notes up in the air and walk off set, but all credit to her, she holds her ground, however shaky it may be. Farage obviously changes tack. He becomes a diplomat, someone who would even work with the incoming Labour government if it is in the UK's interests. "If I can be a bridge, I will," he says, sounding more like a motivational speaker than a politician.
Does it feel like you're already doing the UK AMBO job?
Well, if I can, I'm trying to be helpful.
Of course, the host will try to pick holes into this assertion, and Farage would not bat an eyelash. Say what one would about the man, but he knows how to stay with his narrative. He is like a train running on a single track, recklessly unstoppable and completely oblivious to the mayhem he is leaving in his wake. Interview closes with trade. Farage says the UK must stay on Trump's good side to procure its favourable conditions. He even added that special touch of mentioning Biden's botched Afghanistan withdrawal. By this stage, the host looks like she's run a marathon and someone just handed her a fresh pair of running shoes. Farage, for one, gets into the action with, "Without America, we are defenceless," which sounds quite dramatic, but is just pure Farage, big, bold, and wanting to imprint itself in the mind. And the verdict? Certainly, he didn't leave her speechless, but Farage did leave her scrambling. His skills in political manoeuvring are nothing short of a masterclass in deflection, redirection, and conversation domination. Love him or hate him, he does know how to perform. So, what do you think? Did Farage dominate the conversation, or does that host wield her strength? Let me know in the comments below.